you're going to do another one in a little bit, Justin, right? We're going to come back around the round table. So it's my turn. Finally, at last. Oh, can we hear you, Justin?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no problem. I'll
No,
do
that's
another one
okay.
later on.
I didn't know
Yeah,
if you muted or not. Okay, all right.
yeah, that's all
Yeah,
good.
Dwayne's made me a technophobe, so you know. Um, I think of the three that I picked. We'll see how time goes, but I'm gonna go ahead and go uh, as far away from what might be expected as possible, because I think it's something. It's a landmark film. Um, it's technically a short film, though it is regarded as a feature. It's 58 minutes, so in film parlance, it's not a feature film, but you know. But it's called Black Girl. It's not the 1972 film with Leslie Uggams, which is kind of a black exploitation kind of Claudine like drama. I love Claudine, by the way. If y'all have seen that movie, it's incredible.
Mhm.
Criterion is putting that out. I was like, oh
It was
my
a
God.
great movie.
Criterion
Yes.
put out this Black Girl, and that's how when I got it, I had seen it on one of the streaming channels years ago, and I liked it. And I also saw Zala, the other movie the director did. So his name's Usmani Simbani Usmani. I think I'm saying it right, probably not. But Usmani, I guess he's the most prominent Senegalese film director and one of the most prominent African directors ever. And from what I've read, Black Girl was actually the first African movie to have like a worldwide like art house release, you know. So it was kind of a hit in its way when it came out, which was 1960. I always forget this. I want because I get there's so much great stuff came out in the 60s. I get them all mixed up. It came out in 1966. Okay. Um, and it's black and white, beautifully shot. And the main character is named Diowana. What's really funny is this movie is all in French. And it was shot on location. So it's partly shot in Dakar and partially in. I'm pretty good on French, but I've seen the movie 4 times. I forgot the name of the little. It's near like some of the ritzier Parisian areas, but anyway, that's where this white couple lives, and they advertise for a maid. But you don't over the course of this movie, you finally get the backstory. Like it begins with her beginning this job, working for them, and then later you get flashbacks. You get two key flashbacks. One is of her in Dakar and when she has to say goodbye to her mother, and that's very contentious, and her mother does not want her to leave, and you know they're very impoverished. But one of the reasons she wants to leave is because they're impoverished. But what she kind of I think has to face for herself toward the end of the movie, and unfortunately it really messes with her head, is that she does have selfish reasons for going there. Like she does want to kind of get relatively richer. She wants to buy a lot of dresses. She's very into her appearance. She's immaculate looking, and so she narrates the film. So even in the narration, it's all in French too, and you know, it's telling us that I really would like this kind of high heel shoe and really like this dress. This is so beautiful. But I wouldn't call her a shallow character. I would call her a character trying to get the fuck out of poverty who has good taste.
Um,
Some people might call her shallow. The French characters, ironically, they're rich and they ironically think she is shallow for wanting to buy clothes. Um, and they start treating her basically like a dog, you know. The husband is kinder and more sympathetic, but he's very passive compared to the wife. The wife is less like one of those characters that triggers me. She's like one of those characters that are this evil. There are male characters like this too, so it's not a gender thing. But in this case, it's like this angry female character who's just so evil. You just want to just kill her, reach through the screen and just murder her. And she didn't have that effect on me the first time I saw it, but by the third time I saw it, I was like, this woman just needs to die. She's just total misanthrope. She's just has not one redeeming quality whatsoever. Everything that happens in the house that has any consequence, even up to partially raising the little boy, who's fairly well behaved for a little rich French kid, uh, is done by Diawana, not by the mother. You know, the father does a little bit of responsibility. The mother does literally nothing. So she literally regards Diawana as her slave, she doesn't say that, but in Dijuana's voiceover, she many times says, obviously she thinks I'm a slave, I'm not a slave. And so she begins to feel this boiling anger and resentment. Now, this character doesn't speak very much. I mean, she hardly speaks at all aloud to the other characters. In one flashback, she speaks to her boyfriend and one to her mother. But I may be wrong, but I can't remember a single time she said anything more than maybe a sentence or two to the family. And it's usually stuff like, yes, ma'am, or okay, but she's telling us how she really feels as it goes along. And, by the time you get to the flashback with her boyfriend, uh, she's just about had enough. And, her boyfriend thought she was fanciful and shallow too, kind of, and wanting to do what she did. And she like jumps up on this monument. There's something in Senegal. It's a military monument, which I thought this was really cool. She did that. Apparently, at that time in Senegal, this was like considered a blasphemous act. Like how some Southerners think tearing down the Confederate soldier statues is evil. So like it's like don't step on the Senegalese tribute to these Senegalese men. Now the Senegalese men, I'm sure were fine men, but it's just a giant piece of rock at the end of the day. I mean, there's no statue even. But so she gets up on it, she walks around, and it's real narrow, and she's very petite and very, very well balanced. And her boyfriend's just losing his fucking mind. He's acting like a 2-year-old. He's like, get down, this is a blasphemy against our people. What are you doing? And she's just like, la la la, And she doesn't jump down. She just steps down when she's ready. And so there are things about her personality that I think in some contexts would be seen as too selfish or too all about me. But actually, if you look at it from the point of view of her culture and her as a character, they're totally, and I see this in a lot of Black film because I talked earlier, Briggy, about oppression and colonialism and imperialism, some of our favorite subjects to talk about. And, that those things informed the arts that Black people around the world have created. And we talked about that the other night about music, and we talked about this here earlier on the show. And so I feel like she really was just a free spirit who wanted to just have things, that she saw white people having, and even richer African people having that she couldn't have. And she was young, and she was just, nothing she did was wrong or mean to anybody. She did tell her boyfriend to go away, don't touch her, leave her alone. And I think that's about as, I don't think he ever even got to kissing her. They were just kind of very chaste. And he's like, what? He touches her, and she's like, stop doing that. And she's in narration, she's like, he's molesting me or something like, off me. It's really not molesting her really, but that's how angry she gets. And so after this flashback, after she's done all this work and cooked these meals for this family and their friends, one of who's this pretentious bald guy who says, hold on a minute, and he like stops dinner. He's like, got to hold court, you know how rich people are. And he was like, hold on, and then he like runs up to her and he kisses her on each cheek. And the English subtitle is the literal English subtitle. He says, oh yeah, I've never kissed a Black girl. Now that sounds innocent enough, though a little racist. But if you read the French, what he really says, even though it's a real translation, because the word Negro has had good and bad associations all through history, in French, he said, first time I kissed a negress. And I read that and I'm
Oh
like,
God.
fucking piece of shit. What's your problem? Like, how do you have any say over her body? What, get the fuck away. And she's like so disgusted. And every time she gets mad, the no matter who's listening or in the room, the wife embarrasses her. She goes, oh, look at her, she's mad now. Oh, she's gonna cry. And I was like, okay. And in the credits of the movie, the actual name of the movie is La Noire, comma, de dot dot dot. So it's literally a female Black person, because they make their words female or male by the thing on the end of the appendix. So in this case, noir is with an E, so you don't have to say girl, but it means the Black girl of So that irony is not in the English title, unfortunately. I'm not saying this is a big deal, but it's just a detail that I find fascinating. I'm sure someone's written essays long about it, but um,
That's one
so
of those things that drives me crazy as somebody who really loves a lot of foreign films and watches, and often like I'll watch foreign films if it's a language that I know or know somewhat. I try to watch it in the original as much as I can. And I always catch things like that, like one with titles, two with just scripts in general. Like a lot of that gets lost in translation, especially because translating titles into English for American audiences, it's like people don't think we're going to appreciate the nuance or something. And I'm just like, no, you're killing the title. It's not as good. Why do you do that? Like
I think
my
that
biggest gripe is like going from the Fawn's Labyrinth to Pan's Labyrinth for some reason, and it's so stupid. I just
yeah. No, I'm with you, and I do know
I
quite a lot.
hate
I do
that.
know quite a lot of French language. I can't
Yeah.
speak it like I can't fluently converse in it, but I can read it and I can pronounce it pretty well. But
Hmm.
um, and I like those movies. You know, Jean-Luc Godard was my first dip into French cinema, and
Hmm.
as with a lot of people older than any of us, in the early '60s, and that's a good place to start. You might as well start with the craziest, most out there one first, and then you can kind of work your way back. But
Of course you did.
because Godard basically broke every single rule of cinema that had been written or by critics. He himself was a film critic, but in this movie, unfortunately, it ends very tragically. And I'll say one thing that's key to the ending. She had this mask that the little boy, who is, I guess, is her little brother. They never, spell everything out, which they don't need to. We're not literalists here, and he wears the mask a lot, when he's playing. And it's a very cool tribal mask. And he gives it to her to take with her. Well, when she comes, she puts it on the wall of their house. And that's the only time the woman's nice to her. She thinks it's a gift to her because she puts it in the living room. And well, when she decides and doesn't tell anybody but us, the audience, that she's going to get the hell out of this place, she goes and gets the mask, and the wife loses her fucking mind. And they literally have a literal physical tug of war, and they literally film it like a cyclone going around. And the husband's like, "What am I going to do?" And I'm assuming they're lampooning those kind of scenes in films, but it has gravity because she really wants that mask because it is hers. But the wife insists it's hers, and personally, I feel that's a not so subtle, not so down low statement that white person thinks they own black people and they own everything a black person owns. So
Hmm.
naturally, how dare you assume otherwise? This is the way it's been all through history, and she's like an uber imperialist, I would say, an imperialist bitch. And so she gets the mask, though. The woman relents because her husband's like starting to worry that the girl is sick, Diana. And that was another thing I was going to say. The credits only credit people by their position in the movie. Like they don't have names in the movie, but Diana actually, that I can tell, is the only character that does have a name and it's spoken aloud. So I'm not sure why they didn't put her name. She's just listed as the black girl. That was another quirk of the director. So um, she goes to her room and she's very upset, and he's afraid she's like, he doesn't really think she's suicidal, but he thinks she's mentally ill or she's like physically ill, and that she's his responsibility. So he's actually trying to do something halfway human. And the wife ain't having that. The wife now again narrates to everyone listening, she's faking, she's angry, she's got a problem. Like we're supposed to know how we're supposed to feel about this character from this rich white matriarch. Is going to tell us how we're supposed to feel about the main character because that's her privilege talking. And so
Hmm.
she she kills herself. So she slashes her wrists in the bathtub, and for people who are into that, there's a nice nude shot. I'm just going to say it for exploitation fans watching. She's an attractive girl, but unfortunately, she's dead when they show her, and or not really dead, but we don't advocate snuff movies here, people. Just to get this straight. So it's tragic, and the mask is laying next to the bathtub, and they clean up, and we don't see that. It does an ellipsis like later, and basically he takes her money and her belongings and her mask to Dakar, and they go together, but the wife won't go into her village. of course. So the husband, it pretty much ends with his story of meeting the little boy, the little brother, and the family angrily refuses all the money. They take her possessions, and the little boy puts on the mask, and the guy starts walking to his car, and he's parked a long way away, probably because his wife didn't want to go into the village. And he tracks them walking the whole way, and the whole way the little boy is following like a foot behind him, wearing the mask. And the French guy keeps getting nervous, and he finally gets in his car and, Fen or whatever in the end. But it's just like, I don't know. There's obviously the symbols are pretty clear throughout the movie, but I like the way it's done. And I didn't really catch how tragic it was the first time I saw it. I missed a lot of the nuances of the flashbacks, and I think I wasn't clear that she definitely killed herself or not, but I guess I missed the scene after it. But yeah, she killed herself. So anyway, it's a classic movie. It's Senegalese, so I like it. This guy, I've only seen Xala, Xala by him. Otherwise, that's a feature film, and that was his most popular movie. That was a worldwide hit. That's one that I used to see in all the video stores in the foreign section. I finally saw it a few years ago. It's hilarious. He satirizes everything about Senegalese government, and of course also imperialism and colonial stuff. And it's hilarious. But anyway, that's my first movie. So we're back to
I'm sort of struck by what you're saying regarding, I didn't see the movie, but just from what I hear you saying, the woman saying like she's pretending, or she's angry now, or she's this or she's that. So I'm just going to speak, of course.
Yeah.
I can only speak as a Black woman, of course, because that's what I am. That goes to white people believing that Black people don't feel. We don't have feelings.
Right.
We don't. So they have to tell us how we are supposed to feel.
Right.
Even in the medical industry, there's medical racism. They don't believe we feel pain. They don't believe that. I mean, even today, they don't believe we feel pain. They don't believe that we are depressed, that we get depressed. So to remove our humanity in the most intimate way, the most basic way regarding whether or not we feel pain, to justify the long, hard hours that we worked in the fields. So that's how they were able to say, so that's why they're saying, you don't have feelings, so why are you even complaining? You're not even human. So I'm listening to what you're saying in those scenes, and maybe it would go over your head. Maybe you're looking at it from the seat of where you are, right, through what your experiences are, but really what they're saying. So it's great that these conversations can happen. So when you hear that, you can understand that's what they're saying. You don't really feel pain.
That's kind of the general thought, concept, or feeling I had, but I just kind of homed in on she's going to tell people what she thinks,
Correct.
But the whole thing about not ascribing any real feelings to them, like a Black person is not alive until I like give them something to do or say.
Correct. Until I make you alive, until I say that you're human, then otherwise you are subhuman.
And that used to be a law.
Yes.
The 3/5 law, I think.
Yes.
That's insane.
Like
I said earlier, when I was growing up, I didn't get racism, and I kind of just still don't. But I mean, when I was a kid, it was really baffling to me. And I don't mean I wasn't a dumb kid. A lot of people thought I was dumb because I was very socially inept and withdrawn, but I just didn't understand it because it had no logical basis for anything.
It's a mental illness. It's a mental illness.
Yeah.
It's mass psychosis.
Yeah.
And it's a mental illness, and you know what I mean? So you buy
like
into
a disease.
Yeah, it's a mental
It
illness
is.
to believe something so ridiculous, but it is what it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad we can reflect on it and have these conversations. That's important.
I believe me, I talk to people about this all day. More than I care to, but I talk to people about this almost every day. So it's not an issue for me whatsoever. I'm actually I'm glad this time has come. We have been waiting, quite honestly, Black people have been waiting for this time, if you don't know. because white people just refuse to talk about racism at all. This is a new thing. If you don't know, white people just do not talk, or if they do, they talk about it in hushed tones amongst themselves,
Yeah.
but never so openly, never so, without being defensive. So this is a great time because there's going to be some amazing healing happening
Yeah.
Oh
for
yeah.
everyone.
A lot. That's why I love
Mhm.
following the people that we follow online, because I love all the people on Revolutionary Blackout Network. Subscribe to that
Mhm.
channel, everybody. They all, 5 of them, they all have their own distinct kind of take on what's fucked up and with the world. Basically, the world's coming to an end. Everything's getting really shitty. And they're telling it from a black leftist perspective, not a liberal or Democrat, but a leftist, like, Black Panther leftist kind of perspective, which is where I fall personally. Um, and it's refreshing. It's good that they've been able to keep the show going and grow. And I wish they'd grow more. And Savvy is the biggest. Her own channel is getting almost bigger than them, because she just has a knack for journalism, like talking extemporaneously. I can tell doing this, she hardly ever uses notes. I mean, she's
Yeah.
just saying this stuff brilliantly, like a screed for like an hour. When it's appropriate to get mad, she doesn't then, okay, well, that's we'll get back to the facts. She's like, no, this is wrong. And these people
Yeah.
are evil. And I don't want anyone watching, black or white, to believe otherwise. But that's just me talking, and and then she'll sing or something. But so yeah, thank you. Bill, what did you got for us, sir?
Well, my second film, and I'm probably gonna have to leave after this.
Oh,
Well,
I know.
when it rains, it pours. Tomorrow morning I'm doing some makeup for an album cover, which is pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
And then at night we're shooting a short film, very short,
Okay.
more of it. Yeah,
You have a
but
busy day tomorrow, man.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Why all these things have to happen at once? I don't know, but I discovered the fake blood that I have has fermented, and do not feel comfortable using it on anybody because it still looks good, but I can't vouch for its
So these are the kind of
non-staining,
conversations we just
non-toxic.
see as routine on this channel.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Fermented fake blood, like
Right.
you do.
Fermented fake blood. Well, considering the ingredients, that's probably not a surprise.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So this one doesn't have as much blood as you would think, but I really enjoyed this. Sugar Hill, sometimes called The Zombies of Sugar Hill, 1974. So it's in the.
I have the press book still.
Oh yeah, it's
Nice.
great, and the I say the
movie.
artwork for it is, as by the way, Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde also had very good artwork. I'm sure it was by the same people who did Blackula and definitely Scream, Blackula Scream. Very, very nice art.
Oh yeah, the designs are incredible.
Yeah, unfortunately they don't give the credit for these.
Yeah,
folks,
they don't
know.
credit those people like Saul Bass.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's up to us to do.
So we had Blackula, the Black Vampire. We had Blackenstein, the wretched Frankenstein movie. We had The Beast Must Die, which was also Black Werewolf.
Calvin Lockhart. Once
Yeah.
again.
Mhm.
So you're like, where are the zombies? Because I mean, if any black exploitation should use monsters, it should be zombies. They're from Haiti. I mean, let's get back to it. And the first zombie movies were very like I Walked with a Zombie. The problem was the real zombie, if they were, and there's some evidence they were basically people given drugs who were just slaves, just living slaves, but people believed they were dead.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very exciting monster by its nature. It's not an exciting monster until Romero came along and said, well, what if they were cannibals? Suddenly instant excitement, because a slow moving monster that wants to eat you is way more exciting than a slow moving monster that just, wants to go work in a sugarcane field.
And then you can't get rid of them.
And you can't get rid of them. Yeah. So
these are like zombies on a sugar high. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of.
Wow.
Apparently, one of the
Okay.
ways to get rid of them, to make a zombie stop being a zombie, was to put salt in their mouth.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And they did that in the Kolchak the Night Stalker episode.
Yeah.
I'm on a podcast. We're going through every episode of Kolchak.
Did you see Serpent in the Rainbow in the theater?
Oh yeah.
I did too. And Wade Davis spoke coincidentally at our university here the same month. I didn't go, but one of my best friends went, and it's all real. I mean, it's all true. All the stuff that when people go, like I read a review of it the other day, and they're like, "Yeah, it's loosely based on these memoirs of some anthropologists, and there's some truth, but really, it's just an excuse to have horror." And it's like bullshit. It's 90% true. I'm sorry.
It was a good film. Wes
was a good
Craven,
film.
Wes
Yeah.
Craven makes a good film, then a bad film, then a good film. You know,
Yes,
he's
yes.
very inconsistent. Well, Sugar Hill, directed. It's the only film I believe directed by Paul Maslansky, who is a
Maslansky, yeah.
producer who produced everything. He did so much stuff from The She Beast, Castle of the Living Dead, Deathline, Race with the Devil, which I rather like, Damnation Alley, Circle of Iron. His stuff is, there's no cohesion here except anything that would make a buck. And he finally hit it big in 1984. He produced Police Academy and then just kept on doing that.
I think that's where I first heard about him in the 80s.
You know, just I'm sure he was making money on all of these, but that was where that's where he made his fortune. So Sugar Hill, it starts out for the first 20 minutes. It's just a regular blaxploitation movie about a very pleasant lady, Marky Bay, who should have done more stuff. She has a good-looking boyfriend who assures her nothing bad's going to happen, even though the mob's sniffing around. He's a dead man. I mean, he might as well be wearing a red Star Trek shirt. You know, this guy's not going to let. I'm surprised. I'm amazed he lasted.
I think he did have
minutes.
some red on at one point.
Yeah. 20 minutes, and he's beaten to death by these mafia goons. And then she goes to a voodoo priestess, really cool-looking old lady who knows shit, and you know, swears revenge. I don't care what happens. Making a deal with the devil. And she summons Baron. I may be mispronouncing his name, but I'm not sure I want to pronounce it right. Baron Samedi?
Baron Samedi.
Okay, Samedi. Well,
yeah, it's either Samedi or
it.
Samedi. Now,
I'm going to stop now because that 3
no
stuff starts happening.
I have a Samedi story after you're done, but that's why I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Samedi. But Samedi's.
Well, you just keep saying that name. If all of a sudden your camera starts going all staticky or whatever, I'm like, yeah, I warned him. I don't believe in any of this stuff, and as a result, I don't mess with it either because my goal in life is not to have the word ironic in my obituary. Yeah. Ironically, though, he didn't believe in demons. He wrote about it and then was killed by a demon. Ironically, like, hell, damn, screwed up my one goal in life. So anyway, she summons him, and he says, "Well, here's a bunch of zombies." Now, these zombies are simultaneously the most ridiculous looking zombies in cinema and really, really cool. They are all like, you know, they're all black people with kind of like skeletons painted on in white.
Cobwebs.
The cobwebs, inexplicably cobwebs as they did come out of the grave. All right. And the craziest part is they cut ping pong balls in half, painted them silver, and stuck them in their eyes. Now, describing this, you're thinking this has got to be the biggest piece of shit ever. No, and I don't know why it works. I cannot explain why it works. Part of it, good cinematography, but it really does work. These silly ping pong silver-eyed zombies are some of with their cobwebs that make no sense at all. They're some of my favorite zombies. They're slow, as zombies should be, because it's a metaphor for death. And death, the thing about death, not the cool thing about death, but the thing about death is it's coming to get you. It may take a long time, or if you live a bad life, it may come fast, but it's going to be there. You can do all kinds of things to hold it at bay, but it's a coming. Fast zombies, just, I don't know, that just doesn't work. To me, the scary thing is you're being chased by a zombie. I can outrun a zombie, but I got to sleep. The zombie just keeps on coming, you know? The world goes to hell, and people are like, well, the city's pretty far away. It's like, is it really? Let's say the city's 100 miles away. Zombie walks 5 miles an hour. He's here in a day, because he doesn't sleep. He just walks at 5 miles an hour, 20 hours, 100 miles, not a problem for a zombie. I've thought about this way more than any sane person. Anyway, so she brings the zombies. And here's where the movie gets simultaneously cool and there's a problem. The head mob guy is played by Robert Quarry, who for a while was supposed to be the replacement
Yorga.
of Vincent Price. Count Yorga Vampire. I've always liked Robert Quarry.
Oh yeah.
But not much happened. The characters are so badly written. The problem is these mob guys are idiots. They are so stupid. They are so easily killed that it kind of takes away from the satisfaction that I want. They should have written these guys as legit badasses who, like real mob guys. Not necessarily that they're good, but they're good at what they do, which is just being what they are. And then there'd be some sense of accomplishment. I feel like Sugar could have taken them out on her own. I really do. They, they're pretty gullible. And so they get picked off one by one. There is a cool scene at the end when Robert Quarry comes, goes into the house, which Don Corleone wouldn't do, but he does. And there's all of his friends dead, sitting at a card table with all their wounds, smiling at him because now they are zombies. And that's pretty cool. And then the good Baron gets a nice little last bit with Robert Quarry's girlfriend, where he grabs her and jumps into a grave lit from below with lots of mist, and I guess takes her to hell. And there's the what happens to Sugar Hill now? I mean, okay, so she's gotten her vengeance, but what now? There really should have been a sequel. I don't know if this movie did well. I suspect it may not have done well because Sugar Hill is a terrible title for a horror movie.
Where does this take place?
It was made in what, 1974?
1974, but
where does it take?
I'm guessing
Louisiana.
Louisiana. I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah.
So
that's
pretty quickly she's able. I mean, they're all city folk and they have a nightclub and everything else, but pretty quickly she's able to find the voodoo lady, and people sing, "Oh, someone dies in quicksand," which happens a lot in movies and not so much in real life.
It doesn't happen as often in movies. It used to happen a lot back then in movies. Quicksand was like the thing you just did, and the more you struggled, it was like the more you go to.
Any of those Tarzan movies, they would always fall into quicksand. It looked like oatmeal floating in water because that's how they made it. And the last thing you'd see is that little pith helmet, like just floating in the water. Maybe a hand would come up and grab it. And we thought that was a genuine risk. I lived in upstate New York.
I was gonna say, raise your hand if you grew up thinking that quicksand was going to be a way bigger problem for you in your adulthood than it actually is. I've never encountered quicksand in my entire life, and I have literally been like trekking through the freaking rainforest and stuff. I would still have not encountered quicksand.
I'd walk through the woods of the Adirondacks with a big stick so I could poke the ground ahead of me for copperheads or quicksand. Copperheads were far more likely, though I never actually ran into too many of them.
Likely.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a fun movie. Part of the whole Black heroes versus the mob, which was quite popular. The zombies almost seem like an afterthought. Like maybe they realize, wait, we got a lot of these movies coming out. What makes us different from Cleopatra Jones? And it's like zombies. And you know what? That happens a lot because I'm convinced children shouldn't play with dead things. One of my all-time favorites. They make this movie halfway through this lame-o comedy,
semi-autographical too.
Terrible movie. and then at some point, I'm sure they got the rushes back and they were like, oh man, our movie stinks. What can we do to save it? And in the back, maybe one of the best boys or a gaffer said, why don't you put zombies in it? And they're like, you're a genius. And it's absolutely brilliant. It becomes a great zombie movie, but this is what I kind of miss about those grindhouse films, that you could do a slow buildup. You could devote 20 minutes to introducing the characters and letting us get to know, here's the evil, mob guys, and here's Sugar Hill, and everything looks great, but we know it's going to go bad. And get to do that, and then we introduce the zombies. It's what Tarantino wanted to do with what's his vampire movie? I'm drawing a blank.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Thank you. From Dusk Till Dawn. If you went into that movie not knowing there were any vampires in it, that would have been a great movie. If you're watching this caper movie, this crime film with some cool characters and good dialogue, and then at the 30 or 40 minute mark, suddenly there's vampires, you would have been blown away. But of course, they couldn't advertise the movie as that. They had to, the poster tells you there's vampires.
That happened with more people than you would realize. And although I personally saw the trailer, so it wasn't going to happen to me, but I had family who went to see that and didn't know that was going to happen.
Oh, bless them. They're so fortunate. You're so
envy,
lucky.
so much envy.
It is true. You have to realize the six of us do not represent even close to the
I love it when
average,
movies
film.
Nope.
Nah.
No, we do not.
But I don't go to a movie unless I know a lot about it. That's what gets me in there. And so yeah, when I saw Grindhouse, and maybe I've already told you this, but when I saw Grindhouse, when the first film was over, people got up to start leaving, and I, like a crazy person, was urging them to sit down. There's an entire other movie. Did you not see the poster? Did you not read a review? Did you just wander in because it was hot outside? What is wrong with you? Now they're running out of the theater because not only is the movie over, but there's a crazy man there trying to hold them hostage. But
The quality of movie audiences where I live is really poor. I know I bitch about this a lot, and some people, like my friend Tim McLean, friend of the show, really get sick of me talking about it. But I mean, charlatans, man, you just have to smash them in the fucking face with a piece of glass before they register art. They're oh, I mean,
okay, well, that's not going to
finally
win you
got
any
better
friends,
about
Henry.
music,
I mean,
but
you know.
movies, they still suck. They do not engage with movies. They just sit there like, but so when a movie turns, I laugh out loud and everyone looks at me like I'm a lunatic. Like at the end of Cemetery Man, when it goes from being a zombie movie to an existential road movie for the last 20 minutes. And I was like, this is breathtaking. And everybody's like, fucking problem, man.
There were a lot of confused people in the theater for that one. I'm with you on that. Oh well, hey,
Love that.
So anyway, Zombies, Sugar Hill, or Zombies of Sugar Hill used to be kind of a holy grail. Did not get shown much on TV. Wasn't really available much on tape. And I don't know if there are too many holy grails left anymore, other than London After Midnight and a few others that have slipped between the cracks.
Yeah, but there were a lot when we were growing up, though.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't even hear of Sugar Hill
Monsters.
until I was already into blaxploitation horror before I even heard of Sugar Hill. And then when I heard of it, it was from Video Search, of course. Right. And I ordered a copy for $30, of course, and it looked like shit, of course. But I immediately, as soon as I heard that song, Supernatural Voodoo Woman, I was like, I'm there. And really, Marky Bay's charisma pretty much carries the entire movie.
Yeah, she's really good.
Her added, and also, here's my real quick, my Baron Samedi story is I met Don Pedro Coley at the Comic-Con in 2006. So I had a copy of the DVD. He signed it for me, and then he wrote Baron Samedi under it. And we hung out, and we got a picture of me, him, and Ed Neal, the hitchhiker from Texas Chainsaw. And just hanging out with these guys, it was like, I don't know. I was like a total fanboy. I think I handled it pretty well. I didn't like freak out or anything. I embarrassed myself, but I was definitely kind of in awe. I was in awe that they treated me like a regular person. And that if I knew something about a movie, just weirdly that they didn't know, they were actually interested in what I had to say. I know Bill knows exactly what I'm saying from talking to convention. But Pedro said to me, he said, "Yeah, man, there's a lot that Samedi could have done in a sequel." And he's like, that character was a lot more evil than people thought. I said, "Well, I don't know. I think I agree. I think he's more evil than you would think."
Yeah, and he's a good actor, and his portrayal was fine, but it was a very friendly Baron.
It was comical.
It was not as imposing. Even Jeffrey Holder in Live and Let Die, I thought had more gravitas there. Yeah. It wasn't given a whole lot to do, but would have been interesting. Yeah, I'm sorry they didn't make a sequel.
I love the way he looked, though. He looked very accurate.
Yeah, he looked fantastic.
And really Mama Maitresse, was played by, what's her name, Zora Coley, who was the grandmother on the Jeffersons.
Oh my God, you are absolutely right. Oh, I love the grandmother on the Jeffersons. Oh, she was a pisser. Yeah, you're right.
Sugar Hill is one of those movies, like Chuck was talking about, Human Tornado. Ever since I've seen, there's lines that pop up. The song pops up in my head, or whenever she leans over to some racist white person, she's like, "Listen, honk." And I'm just like, And then when they start talking about Mama Maitresse, we've got to go see her. She's the most powerful voodoo witch there is. It's also, it's like, it's really kind of cartoonish. But if you read about voodoo, it actually is kind of authentic too. It's just, it occupies that nice little mythical place,
You know, I hate remakes, but I wouldn't mind seeing this one remade. I think they could take this premise and do a lot with it.
The right people did it, sure.
And it would be a good twist on the zombies have been, we keep saying zombies are played out, but they still make a mint doing new variations. But it'd be interesting to go back to something like this that actually has the original premise of what a zombie would be.
Well, you know,
and make him a bit scary again.
Historically, okay, so historically in film, you probably know this. As far as I know, the very first movie where a zombie came out of the dirt up through the ground was Plague of the Zombies, the Hammer movie.
I would argue that actually one of the Universal Mummy sequels. He's a mummy, not a zombie. But there's a great scene where the princess she fell into quicksand in the previous movie with Doris, and then this next movie opens up with some guys, bulldozing some things, and they cut to the ground, and it's absolutely terrifying. I can't remember if it's the Mummy's Curse or Mummy's Tomb or whatever. And the hand comes up, and she comes out completely caked in dirt, and she's walking with this very stuttery. Terrified the hell out of me when I was a kid. That was so scary. And I tell you the truth, I still think that's one of the scariest rising from the dirt scenes ever done.
I thought The Plague of the Zombies was an exceptional movie, especially I thought for Hammer, it was really
Hammer's only zombie film. Yeah.
And I know that scene, but I'm pretty sure after that, the next scene was Sugar Hill. But then after that, the guy who made it popular was Fulci. Fulci just did it to death. He did that scene like 20 times in 5 movies, in 5 different movies.
And give Fulci credit; he didn't just rip off Romero. He did go back to the roots
he did what you were talking
zombies
about.
Were.
Absolutely.
So, but anyway, listen, I do have to go.
Okay,
it was a pleasure meeting you. Y'all take care. Love you all. Have a good weekend.
Hey, Bill. Have a good
See you again
weekend.
soon.
Have fun making art.
Thank you,
man.